right, hello and welcome to another Expert Inside interview. My name is John Golden from SalesPOP, online sales magazine and Pipeliner CRM, joining you as usual from a sunny San Diego. And today I'm delighted to welcome back Stacey Brown Randall, who was on this show about into 2023, actually, was the last time you were on here. So welcome back, Stacey.
Thank you, John, for having me back. It's been too long, so
It
I'm glad to
has.
be here.
It has. And Stacey, you are the best-selling author of Generating Business Referrals Without Asking. You've won multiple awards, helped thousands of business owners ditch the awkward referral ask forever. She's the host of the top-rated Roadmap to Referrals podcast, and you've been featured in Entrepreneur, Forbes, Investors, Business Daily, and more. And you have a new book, the Referral Client Experience. Turn happy clients into your best referral sources without asking, incentivizing, or manipulating. And it's out now, which is great. Hey, Stacey, I think it's such a timely subject because I always feel like going into the end of the year and Q4, and maybe you're behind at your forecast or whatever. What's the first thing people go, what can we do to generate some more business before the end of the year? What's one of the first things that people dig up and dust off? They go, referrals. Let's go referrals. And they do this like blast out referral campaign. It doesn't work, and then they move on and then repeat, rinse and repeat the next time the pipeline goes starts to deteriorate.
It's true. I really feel like referrals gets like this bad rap because of
Mm.
how people think about them and how they have been conditioned to think that they won't work. So we'll just try some things and we won't give them the true attention that they deserve, where they can, of course, be powerful.
Mhm. Yeah. So in your new book, you talk about that the idea of referrals, it comes from how the clients feel long after the initial transaction is over. So talk me through what you mean by the feeling part.
Yeah, so the definition of a client experience is how the client feels when they're working with you. It's
Hmm.
interesting. So the book came out, 2025, and just a couple weeks ago. And it's interesting that when I started writing this book, and building out this strategy, the referable client experience, as a strategy that I would teach my clients, and then a couple years later turn it into this book.
Hmm.
When I started researching the definition of client experience, most like the big firm consultancies did not agree on a definition, and they were all over the place. Now
Hmm.
we had to go back and update that portion of the book before we hit publish on it, because now it seems in 2025 that there is this sense that the definition of a client experience is how the client feels. And most people think, though, how the client feels means the work that I've done, that they think I've done great work, that they feel like they got the transformation or they got the website that they wanted, or whatever it is that I produce or that we produce for them, or the results they're supposed to get. But feelings aren't driven by just the logical thought process of you delivered on what I paid for. It's so much more than that. There is an emotional and a mental kind of connection to how a client feels. And so when you look at how a client feels, right, when they are working with you and long after
Hmm.
working with you, it's not just the work you deliver, it's that and right? It's like, yes, and it is also understanding the relationship that you're building, because it's within the relationship that you're building is where you're actually able to truly impact, I think, at the deepest level, the feelings that your clients have. And it's in there of where referrals are hanging out. And so
Right.
you really have to look at the client experience, and in particular, my opinion, the referable client experience, from not just the excellent work that you deliver on and all the work that you're executing on, right? But also the relationship that you're building in the process.
Yeah, so what are some of the areas that people miss out on or mistakes they make on this? Because I agree with you on the experience, but like I said, unfortunately, referrals tends to be this kind of discrete project that happens every so often. Or the other thing is, I call you up or email you and go, hey, Stacey, do you're a customer of ours, you're doing great. Do you know anybody else? And I've just given you work to do, and plus I just came out of the blue and asked you, and then I'm kind of, well, Stacey's no good. She didn't do anything for me.
But and it's crazy how people are like, they come out of the blue,
Yeah.
they ask you to do something, so they come out of the blue, they then give you work to do. They've now commoditized your relationship, and they're artificially trying to create something that doesn't exist. And then when you don't perform, you're absolutely right. The response is, well, that didn't work. They didn't do anything for me. That she's
E-
never going to refer. I'm like,
ex-
because you completely violated the science behind actually how referrals work, and then yet you still expect it to produce results for you.
mm,
So I do think things that people get wrong, though, specifically when we're talking about it from the client experience,
yeah.
and I see this a lot. I start talking to somebody about not just having this amazing client experience, but having a referable client
Mhm.
experience, and really looking at that in terms of first being worthy of referrals and then knowing how to bridge the gap to receiving referrals. And you can't have one before the other. You have to have
Right.
the referable experience first and then bridge the gap to referrals. But when you start talking about it, it's like all of a sudden they light up and they're like, oh, yeah, I got to do this one thing. They go looking for the wow factor, right? They
Hmm.
go looking for the one thing that I need to do that's going to make my clients love me. So there's this one example that I think is just perfect. So my husband and I belong to a gym. And one day we were both walking into the gym and there was like this huge banner up. And it was like investment of $60,000 in new equipment. And I looked at that and I looked at my husband and I was like, well, that's lovely. I would really prefer that when the water comes out of the fountain, that it's actually cold and not
Hmm.
warm. Maybe we can fix the fundamental issues first before we go invest and do the big wow factor of look at all this money that we just spent. I'm like, I just want my water to be cold. So the first thing I see people
Mm.
do is that they overlook what client experience actually is by trying to
Right.
like the duct tape, right? Or put
Mm.
a little lipstick on it and everything will be fine. Like, no, let's get to part of like, what is your client experience? Is it actually referable? And then we'll worry about wow factor and doing the things to bridge the gap to referrals.
Yeah. And what do customers look for in a client experience? I mean, I know it's different, obviously, different, product services, but generally speaking, from your research, what are they looking for from an experience?
Yeah, so what I find is that every client, as they move through different stages in your business, there is something they are concerned about or
Mm.
anticipating or making assumptions on. And that is really because you're right. I mean, the divorce attorney's client experience looks drastically different from the financial advisor, right? And the
Yes.
financial advisor's client experience probably looks drastically different from the change
Mhm.
management consultant, right? Like they
Right.
all look different.
Mhm.
And so, but what they all have in common is that as they enter each of the three stages within your client experience, they have concerns. They are anticipating things. They sometimes are wondering or making assumptions about how things are supposed to go. And I call it the quiet voice.
Mhm.
Clients have this quiet voice. It's all the things rolling around in their head, all the things that they're questioning and anticipating, and maybe it's positive, maybe some of it's negative, but they're not speaking it out loud, right?
Right.
It's like buyer's remorse is just a piece of the quiet voice. And so what I find is that people aren't paying attention in that client experience to make it referable. They're not paying attention to addressing the quiet voice and
Mm.
what we kind of refer to as the pitfalls of each of those three stages. So when a client is new, their quiet voice is all about, did I make the right choice?
Yep.
Am I
Mhm.
about to lose a bunch of money? Is this going to go according to plan? When are we getting started? How fast will this move? Right? And so there's things you can do to address that and normalize it. The minute you address the fact that a client has the quiet voice, things going on in their heads, you're like, you're probably feeling these ways. You normalize it, you remove the stigma from it, and then it's not an issue, right?
Mhm.
But there's things like that in each of the stages that your client is feeling that you need to address. And I find that's the things that people overlook. Like it really is the quiet voice when a client is new. It's ignoring it, right?
Right.
Like you ignore it by they have all these concerns and you just dove into doing the work because you think
Mhm.
that's what they're paying you for, and they need a little bit more than that. In the active stage, which is where most of the work happens, I find that the big pitfall is the lull of complacency where
Yeah.
we're doing the work, they know it's happening. I send them a check in every Friday that says the same thing. No news is good news.
Yeah.
And like that's nope. That's like you're really in that lull of complacency. And then let's be honest, when they're moving to an alumni client and they're done working with you, the biggest pitfall I find people find themselves in is they do the disappearing act on their clients.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's one of the ones, and you hear that a lot, right? Is sometimes like, salespeople, and that they've got the deal, the person is on the onboard. They don't want to do anything. It's like they put this hands off, like, I'm afraid if I touch anything, everything's going to collapse, which is an odd thing if you just actually sold them a solution and you that's going to work for
Right.
them. It's a bit odd that you'd be panicking at that stage. But I think the thing, Stacey, is a lot of times, particularly in B2B, is I think sellers and companies overlook the emotional aspect of the
Mhm.
purchase on the buyer's behalf. They always think about, like, well, what's driving the company to do this? What are the business drivers, which are all important. But
Yes.
and it could be a buying committee, but it could be like, what's Stacey's? What has Stacey got riding on this? Maybe she's the point person. Maybe if this is successful, this could be great for her. If it's not successful, this could be not so great for her. So acknowledging that I need to help you through this process because it is an emotional one.
Yeah, and I think it's also understanding that if you don't know what they have on the line, it's also okay to ask. Like,
Yeah.
it's also okay to have that conversation with your client, right? Like, I mean, I think about this like, okay, so, right, world of software, you know this. If there's
Mhm.
anybody out there selling software today that doesn't acknowledge in the prospect phase and in the new client stage and probably in the active stage that I don't care how perfect your process is to move
Yeah.
someone from your competitor's software to
Mhm.
your software, can we just acknowledge it's kind of a nightmare for the person who's just bought the new solution? Like, it just
Mhm.
is. Not all integrations go well. They just don't. Like, it's looking at things like that and just acknowledging it. Be like, hey,
Mhm.
when you're up and running, like, it's like the future pace them, right? When you're up and running and you and your team are using this, you're going to look like the rock star. The
Right.
journey to get from signing on the dotted line to you looking like a rock star, it's going to be a little bumpy, and we know it, and we're on
Mhm.
top of it. So it's like, don't
Yeah.
stress about it. Like, it's going to be messy. Like, it's like calling out the thing that it's probably going to happen. You hope it doesn't, but the odds
Mhm.
are not in your
Yeah.
favor, and it probably will be. And not because the company does anything wrong, right? Sometimes the client doesn't do what we need them to do at the right timetable,
Exactly.
right? Like, it
Exactly.
just acknowledging all of that stuff is be like, hey, we're doing this. This is what this looks like. And then acknowledging their role in it. And the fact
Mhm.
that if it doesn't go according to plan, that's normal. It's just how these things work. But you're in excellent hands. We will get you to future state you, which is where you look like a hero.
Absolutely. And then the opposite of that is you say all of that, but then you just hide away in the
Right.
background going, hopefully, okay,
Exactly.
nothing's happening. They're not saying anything. Everything seems to be okay. I'm just going to, I'm going to leave well alone. Right.
Yeah.
Tell me from your book, tell me about the concept of touch point stacking.
Yeah, so I think what something that I want people to understand is that when I teach the formula of a referral client experience, it's the idea that it's the work you do and it's the relationship you build. And the way that we look at that inside of like what we build with clients is that you have work touch points and you have relationship building touch points. And knowing that they serve different purposes and they
Mhm.
do different things. The majority of what you do, right? Like 80-85% of what you do is going to be work touch points, but
Yeah.
there should be that 15 to 20%, sometimes a little more depending on how long your cycle is when you're with a client. And if they're never stop being a client, right, then obviously there'll be more relationship touch points as well. But about 15-20%, sometimes a little more, need to be based on that relationship things. And sometimes you can do a work touch point and partner a relationship touch point with it. And sometimes they're standalone touch points, but understanding that the objective of that touch point is to deliver on the emotions, usually and solely when we're doing relationship based
Mhm.
or relationship building touch points. And it's really like separating that in your mind. Like, so I had a client one time say, like, every time I deliver on work, I'm doing a relationship touch point. And I'm like, okay, please explain this to me because that's not how it works. And she's
Mhm.
like, well, I asked them how they're doing. And like
Right.
the rapport building you're doing on the phone call prior to them diving into the work conversation is not relationship building. It is in terms of like building rapport, but it's
Sure.
not when you're defining it within the client experience. We're talking about doing something that hits at the heart of how your client feel. And so there's more of a separation factor of people understanding the difference between the two types of touch points, and really understanding how the formula works and how it drives the success that we want, but getting that for what it is, and then looking for, okay, now how does this actually all fit together?
Yeah. Can you give an example of like a relationship touch point so people understand the difference?
Yeah. So this is one of my favorites. It's one that if you're not doing, you should start doing
Mhm.
ASAP. You can expand on this and make it better. But it is one that is not going to be a barrier to entry from a budget perspective for anyone. So a lot of times we look at relationship touch points to be based on overcoming the pitfalls that are happening in each of the stages. So I mentioned that the new client stage, the big pitfall is the ignoring the quiet voice. I
Yeah,
think one of the best things that you can do is send a welcome card to your clients addressing the quiet voice. So it's not the welcome card like most people do. Thanks for coming on board. We're so excited to work with you. Let's be honest,
mhm,
that card, that language right there is all about you getting a new client. But
yeah,
if you turn it from a welcome card to a journey card and you talk about the journey they're about to go on in that card, it then starts labeling, right, and normalizing all the things they think. So, for example, um, before I learned my referral strategies that I've been teaching now for 12 years, I first figured them out for myself because I was a productivity and business coach. When
mhm,
a client would come to me and they would sign up for a year's worth of coaching with me, I knew the instant they said yes to me, they were thinking about future them, like the future state
yeah,
of themselves, of how amazing it'll be when they finally have control of their inbox and their calendar and
mhm,
they're more productive, right? That's why they were going through the coaching. But the minute they said yes and paid their deposit and signed their coaching agreement, they were like, oh, she's going to make me do work.
yeah,
She's going to ask me to change. And it's going to be hard and I'm probably not going to enjoy it. So I wrote a journey card that addressed specifically that. Hey, I'm
mhm,
excited to be able to work with you. I know this journey of coaching with me is going to stretch and challenge you in ways that you may not love. That's
mhm.
normal. And it's okay because you're not alone. I'm your co pilot and I've got you. Like it just, that simple card, let's be honest, costs like $1 plus a stamp, right? It's the easiest thing you can do that is a relationship building touch point. Yes, I'm speaking to the experience, but what I'm
Sure,
saying to them and what most of our relationship touch points do is they say, I see you. I
yeah,
see you and I know what you're going through and I've got you. And you can do that in different ways, right? But in the new client stage, right after the client has gone from buyer's journey into being a client, that card, and some people do it as a card plus a welcome gift, great,
mhm.
but that card, that language is key, and it's one everybody should start doing right away.
Yeah, no, that's a great insight and a great example for people to pick up on. And yeah, and you're right. I mean, I think today, I mean, people just want to be seen, heard, and understood. It's pretty simple, isn't it? You know, they want to know that you see them, they want to know that you've heard what they've said, and they want to know that you understood it.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So tell me about planting referral seeds throughout the whole client journey, because I mean that seems to be. I mean, the whole of your approach is
Mhm.
this like is a process, right?
Yeah,
So and which I love, and it's an ongoing process and one because I mean this is what people often. We've gotten so bad, haven't we? At like people so like, okay, this is the sales part. Okay, now they go to the onboarding part. Now they go, well, now they just customer success looks after them or whatever, and it's like we demark these things and make them sort of separate as opposed to being a nice smooth flowing process.
yeah, so when people talk to me about the referral seeds, I mean, that's just the language, right? That's the
Mhm,
language that I teach, and I always tell folks it's a little bit like what I would refer to as my secret sauce, because
mhm,
most of the time people are looking at moments to forcibly insert language about referrals. They think that's
mhm.
what I mean when I say plant referral
Right.
seeds. They're like, okay, so when this is happening, I should say something about referrals. I'm like, not if you're forcing it, because then it's
Yeah.
awkward, comfortable,
Mhm.
and everybody knows it, right? So the idea of planting referral seeds is like percolating the idea of referrals from start to finish with your clients. And it's really using the power of suggestion, right? Versus like this in your face, oh, referrals are amazing. And there's like no
Yeah.
context to why you just said that,
Mhm.
right? Like it's looking at it. It's not, sometimes I always tell folks, I'm like, sometimes we're not even using the word referral, but we are
Right.
able to future pace people from that perspective. And so it is the language piece that you have to use. We do percolate it or power question and like kind of plant those seeds throughout the client experience. Sometimes they're just in conversations and sometimes there's like a touch point we're doing and we are delivering referral seed language with it because it makes sense. But there are 3 places in your client experience where referrals are going to come from. And so that's where we kind of first start looking to figure out what are the ones in that are going to work for you. And then
Hmm.
figuring out, are we going to do a relationship touch point, or are we going to plan a referral seed, or are we going to do both? And so the 3 places are, first, the right people. We can't
Hmm.
build a strategy around the right people because they don't identify themselves until they reveal themselves. And it is like
Right.
the new client, or it's the prospect who's like referring you before they've said yes to working with you, or the new client who's already told a couple of people and those folks have been referred to you. Like, we're like, praise Jesus that those people exist. We love them. They're amazing. But at the end
Hmm.
of the day, we can't identify them. We can't build a strategy around
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is one, right? So right people. The second 2, though, you can put these around in tactics. So the next one is what we call referral hot zones. There are probably moments in your client experience where people are more likely to actually refer. And it's usually because something is happening. And so,
Hmm.
but everybody and everyone's like, oh, well, then I guess we all, as business owners, right? We all have the same client, like the client, same hot zones. I'm like, no, they're
No.
actually very different. And so I always
Hmm.
tell folks in the book, I literally teach this 3 ways of how to identify your hot zones based on how much effort you want to put into it. It's that important because, like, I would have told you that most of the people refer to me once they have results and they're getting the referrals that they want.
Yeah.
It's like, it may be 4 or 5 months in, but maybe it's like 8 or 9 months in and working with me and they're getting all these referrals and they're hitting the goal that we set. But that's what I thought. But I was wrong.
Hmm.
About 25% of my referrals happen when someone says yes to me. And that
Mm.
excitement, the anticipation factor kicks in. So, like, not knowing that meant that I was ignoring a hot zone.
Right.
Recognizing those hot zones and really understanding what they look like is really important. And you figure them out really simply, even though there's like a whole chapter dedicated to it. You
Hmm.
figure them out by looking at when somebody has been referred to you. Like, so when a prospect has been referred to you, who
Right.
referred that prospect? And that prospect may or may not have become a client, right? But it's at the moment a prospect was referred to you. Who referred them? If who referred them was a client of yours, where was that client in their client experience with you when they made the referral to that
That's
prospect,
really, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So,
Yeah,
and
no,
that,
I think that's really, I just wanted to underline that because I think that's such a profound thing and a great takeaway for people. It's, I mean, that's something you could do today is like go look at your recent referrals and figure out, where was it? Was it a new customer? Or have they been a long-term customer? What was going on? Was there anything that prompted this?
yes. And there are some common ones, right, that most people will have. A lot of people will have them when like the work is done, right?
Sure.
They're maybe more likely to have that, but not every business is the same. And so, to your point, yes, you can go do that like right now. When people finish listening to this, right? Or finish watching this, they can go do this right now. Understanding when your clients are more likely to refer to you, then we look at it and we want to say, okay, do we need a relationship touch point there? Do we need to plant a referral seed there? Or do we need to do both? And that's an important kind of thing to consider, right? And then the next one is what we just call right moments. And this is more
Hmm.
about the things that your clients say to you, and you know how to respond appropriately and
Right.
correctly from a referral perspective. So here's one seed that anybody can plant. And really, this is one that isn't, and it's what I call the right moments, but it's one of those where you're not really waiting on the client to say something to you to know how you want to respond. You're really actually able to say it whenever you want. Just don't oversay it
Mm.
because then it's like weird and
Right.
robotic. You know what I mean? And nobody wants that. But with that right moment, you can kind of create that whenever you want. And that is if you have a client, regardless if they're a new, active, or alumni stage, right?
Hmm.
If you have a client that was referred to you, one of the most powerful things you can do is remind them that they were referred to you.
Uh,
So not putting it in, you're not putting it in an email, you're not putting it in a
mhm.
text message, you're not putting it in a newsletter, right? When your account manager is on the phone with them, they just know this, right? When the salesperson is on the phone with them
Yeah.
during the onboarding call, whatever it is, they just know, hey, this client was referred by this person. Doesn't matter who referred them. It's the fact that they
Mm.
were referred. And then you remind them of it. So when they're brand new, you can be like, hey, we're so excited to work together and to get this demo call kicked off to get you going. And we're just really thankful that John Golden actually referred you to us so that we have this opportunity to work together.
Mm.
And then
Yeah,
move
and
on.
Yeah, and I love that because that's subtle, but at the same time, you've planted that seed in my head that I came from a referral, and
Yes.
therefore maybe if I have the same experience, I'll do the same. Listen, Stacey, this has been fantastic. You've shared so much with us today. Again, the new book is called The Referable Client Experience: Turn Happy Clients into Your Best Referral Sources Without Asking, Incentivizing, or Manipulating. All of Stacey's information, the books, will be below this video. But before we go, please do remind people about what you do.
Yeah. So I take what seems to be very, very complex and break it down quite simply to help people increase their referrals. We do that through a number of different ways that I work with clients, but we use everything that we do is based on the science of how referrals work. And that is baked into all of our strategies, tactics, and language. And we show business owners that it is possible to double, triple, or quadruple their referrals without asking, without manipulating, without incentivizing, and without having to be gimmicky and promotional.
Yeah, fantastic. And to be honest, I think if everybody's honest as well, I have rarely come across any organization that has a very good and well-oiled referral system. Really have never had. As I said to you, my experience in the past has always been that kind of panicked, oh, let's do a referral campaign or whatever, but nothing systematic behind it. So the one thing going into 2026, I would encourage you, go get the book, read it, reach out and reach out to Stacey or whatever, because I guarantee you, if you get your referrals right, you're probably going to be ahead of most of your competitors.
Absolutely. I would concur.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks again, Stacey. Thank you for watching and listening, and I'll see you all again very soon. Thank you.